Hello folks, I'm Aleks U and you are awesome. Today's topic in this Mind Triumph 15 minutes video is very short and it is you are it. In the next 15 minutes we're going to discuss that deep topic as you can get from the title. I have these two, what they call a blend between lemons and tangerines. They smell incredible, exactly like a blend between tangerine and a lemon, and they're actually quite tasty too, to juice them, eat them, whatever. But they help me get right back in the present moment because it's such a beautiful smell. And as I always say, it's a shortcut to get to right here and right now, because while the brain is processing that smell, here it is again. I cannot think, right? The chatterbox, the ego, the story, it stops even for a couple of seconds. So I'm going to put this away and we're going to delve right into the topic. You are it. Now it's difficult to prepare for a conversation like this because it isn't easy to point to the topic with words, but many teachers, many conversations have tried to do that, and we're going to add another one to this as well. Now, in a nutshell, what that means is that you are everything. There is nothing outside of you. There is only one person dreaming. It's you dreaming the life that you are living, because you're dreaming yourself, right? So there's nothing outside of you. You're it. You are everything. Now, of course, to the mind, to the ego mind, that is, that sentence or these sentences, they don't make any sense. Right? Like you are it and nothing outside of you, and you are everything, doesn't mean anything to the ego, because the ego, your ego, my ego, and all the egos walking around, your ego see itself as something separate, right? That's the very foundation of the ego. If it doesn't see itself as separate, then there is no ego, right? The essence of the ego is that it's a separate being, and then from there all the story holds true, right? Because I'm separate and everybody else is outside of me, right? So then I can create stories. I can have drama, I can have people I love, people I hate, people I use, right? Because to the ego, I'm not even sure that it's capable of any sort of love, right? It's capable of using people, and what I mean by that is that, okay, these are from ego perspective, my family, my friends, it seems like I'm loving them, but they play a role in my story where they do something for me, right? My parents, they help me with this, I can rely on them, my friends do. In any situation, these people that I've put in my story, they play a part for me, right? And even strangers, when I go to the post office, I want them to do something for me, right? I'm going there with a need. My ego needs to achieve something. So as simple as that is, right? But the ego sees every other character outside, we're talking about the humans, and everything else really, right, as a source for its own gain, right? So it is a separate thing, because otherwise the ego, if it didn't see it's separate, then we wouldn't have that issue of falling in love with this idiotic structure that only brings us pain. Obviously, right? You don't need to look far to see how painful for yourself and for everyone else, collectively, historically, the examples galore, right? So the whole concept of understanding, or the idea of understanding that you're it, also automatically means that you have dropped the belief and that buying into that you are a separate individual, egoistic self, right? That those two things, they mean the same thing. You're it and you're not your ego, or the whole letting go and being present moment, right? Like those are the same things, right? Because when you become it, and by it I mean all, everything, you automatically here and now. You become everything here and now, which is what it means to be present, right? In the present moment, the separate self, the separate ego self is gone, right? And it feels, when you approach it mentally, it feels like, it feels like exactly letting go the wheel on the highway, right? Like it feels scary to the mind, because it is a death to the individual mind-made narrative self, right? That is gone, right? This conversation that holds and that happens in your mind for day in, day out, that in order for you to be present and at peace and at absolute joy and at being calm, right? The self-made image here, or self-bought image and made, I think it's combination, I guess, however you want to look at it, it's gone, right? And so the peace isn't gained, or the joy and the finally the alleviation from the drama isn't gained as in I acquired it, but it becomes your reality, right? It's the lack of pain, the lack of self-inflicted suffering and drama from the ego narrative in your mind is gone. And so in its place, what is left is what you actually are, and that is a being, right? An existence, a life. And what I mean by life, you can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it whatever suits you, right? It is no right or wrong here. But the truth is, it is a oneness, right, that you become. You become, again, what you separate yourself mentally from. But that it, and that oneness is not gone. No matter how deep you get into the story, and no matter how dramatic, and in absolute, regardless of what happens to an individual, right? What it seems like an individual, the totality that you are one cannot end, right? That's the beauty of it. Eventually, you're gonna wake up to yourself. Eventually, I'm gonna wake up to that same self. It's one self dreaming itself within these stories and narratives that we have on this planet. There is no me and you, as in coming from totality and oneness, right? But in this narrative that we live, right? The society built, obviously, to the brain, to the human brain. That sentence doesn't make any sense. What do you mean there's no you and I? I'm talking, you're listening. There are obviously two individuals at least, right? And that's what makes this story, that's what makes this dream so unique and addictive, because in the dream, I seem to be talking and you seem to be listening. And it is that experience. I experience talking and someone listening to me, and you experiencing the conversation as a listener, somebody talking to you, right? And obviously this is a simple example, and everything else that's happening in this life constantly seems exactly like this. It seems like there's a lot happening to different individuals, right? It seems like that. But in a dream, when you are dreaming, and if you remember your dream, that's exactly you're not moving. You're in a bed, right? And there's a lot. The dream can involve a lot of people, made up. They don't exist. It's a dream. You know it's a dream, and yet in the dream they seem as real as they can be to you, and you in the dream, and the people in the dream, and then whatever is happening in the dream seems extremely authentic and real. That's exactly what this is, right? From a dream perspective, right? From the oneness that you are and I am. So yes, in this life, the goal is to realize this, and then you can play this game and this dream with much more ease, with much more understanding and appreciation and enjoyment, understanding that it's a dream, and the goal shifts from you are against everybody and everything and trying to gain, get, become, and everything is a challenge, to hey, I am equal part to the dream because I am it, right? So what are ways I can curiously, while this lasting, while am I asleep with this grand dream we've built here, how can I be curious? How can I be? How can I enjoy it in the earth terminology that it can be, right? And that involves being connected to people because they are you, coming up from love and care and appreciation and understanding. Like you still have as a human self, but now it's switched to a positive, to a better dream, right? Not the egoistic, completely separate and coming up from that end and all the negative emotions that they experienced and activities. But now you're coming from, hey, okay, I know it's a dream, and to experience a dream, it requires so to speak, a separate perception of self, right? In order to experience it. But let me, right? And the best way to experience it, it's seeing it as you are the dream, right? And everybody in it is just equal, not equal to you, it is you in a different form and shape. So then it's easy to love, it's easy to care, it's easy to be creative, supportive, collective, social, understanding, compassionate, passionate, curious. All those virtues now become incredibly easy. Because now you're seeing your neighbor, like Jesus has said, right? See your neighbor as yourself. Like not like yourself, as yourself, because it is yourself. So then that becomes really valid and easy to understand. Well, the neighbor is me, just part of the same dream that I've built, and plays a different role in the dream, but it is me. So how can I not love him like myself? It is myself. So then life becomes much easier. You might say, oh wow, this is voodoo. It's easy for you. Like, it seems like you're doing a favor to the neighbor. It's easier for you. Like, isn't it, do we not have enough examples of how difficult we've built this life to be, how dramatic, suffering, painful. Look, the bottom line is living as following the ego self like we are religiously doing, right, leads to what? Suffering, pain, illness, death. That's it. There's not more. There isn't anything else that the ego will lead you to. It might seem that, oh, you're gaining things. Your ego self, right, that you live by, is winning and gaining. It's not winning anything. There's not a single ego self that is healthy, happy, joyful, present, and just open and alive, right? All of them, who lives absolutely vigorous, full of life? Who is that person that comes from an ego, follows its ego self? They aren't, right? Don't listen to this video, look around and see how we live as a separate being, gaining things against everybody, and how you can turn that around and see it all as you and live with what? A passion, like I was saying, compassionate towards everything and everybody and yourself, right? For being that separate ego so far. Being not apologetic, but being kind to yourself that you've been buying into this separate self, so that you can wake up from it and really truly appreciate the beauty of this dream. Even though it is gorgeous, it is as playful, right? And it is not against you, most importantly, because you are it. You are the one dreaming it as yourself, and I am that same one dreaming it as myself, and so forth. So you and I are one. So yes, I do love you, and I love all. And I want to end with this because there's nothing else more beautifully said. We are it, oneness, right? And yes, far from love, it's oneness. Even further is what I meant to say. And this was coming up to the 15 minutes, just right on. I'm gonna continue with juicing these beautiful lemon babies here. And I'm gonna see you next weekend for another 15 minutes Mind Triumph Talk. Until then, I always say less ego and a lot more present moment joy. See you then.